The records are scarce, scattered across fading manuscripts, brittle journals, and half-burned letters buried in forgotten archives. Historians still debate whether the account is truth, myth, or something in between. But one thing remains consistent across all versions of the story. There was once a giant who spoke our language, and on the day the soldiers came, he said something no one ever forgot. Aye, the Valley of Echoes. In the late 17th century, beyond the northern mountain passes and far from the reach of empires, there existed a remote valley known to locals as the Valley of Echoes. The name came from a peculiar phenomenon. Voices carried unnaturally far, bouncing between cliffs as if the land itself refused to let words die. Villagers who lived nearby spoke of a towering figure who roamed the valley. He was not a creature of chaos, as many would assume, but one of quiet presence. They called him a render, though no one knew if that was his real name or simply the closest sound they could make to what he once told them. A render stood taller than any structure of the time, nearly 3 times the height of a man. Yet he moved slowly, carefully, as if aware of his own strength and the fragility of everything around him. At first, the villagers feared him, but over time, something extraordinary happened. He began to speak. 2. The giant who learned. It started with simple words, broken, uncertain, and deeply strained, as though his voice had not been used in centuries. Shepherds claimed he listened to them from afar, mimicking their phrases under his breath. Water, he once said, pointing toward a stream. Fire, he murmured during a winter night, watching villagers gather around a flame. Years passed, and his speech improved. Not perfectly, but enough to be understood. He never explained where he came from. He never spoke of others like him. And when asked directly, he would only respond with silence, or a distant, almost mournful gaze toward the mountains. 3. The kingdom takes notice. News travels, even from the most remote corners of the world. Travelers brought whispers of the giant to nearby towns. Merchants exaggerated the tale. Priests called it a sign. Scholars called it an impossibility. Eventually, word reached the capital. To the crown, Irinder was not a marvel. He was a threat. A creature of unknown origin, immense power, and unsettling intelligence could not be left unaccounted for. Orders were issued. A company of soldiers, armed and disciplined, was dispatched to the valley with a simple directive: capture the giant. If not possible, eliminate him. 4. The day the soldiers arrived. The morning was unnaturally still. Witnesses later wrote that even the wind seemed to hesitate. The soldiers entered the valley in formation, armor gleaming, weapons drawn. Their commander, a man known for his loyalty rather than his mercy, led the march. Villagers watched from a distance, fear gripping them. Some had grown to trust Irinder. Others still feared what he might be if provoked. And then they saw him. Irinder emerged from behind the cliffs, not running, not hiding. He walked slowly into the open, his massive form casting a long shadow across the ground. He had known they were coming. The confrontation. The commander stepped forward, raising his hand. By order of the crown, he shouted, you are to surrender yourself. The soldiers braced, expecting resistance, but Irinder did not attack. Instead, he lowered himself, slowly, deliberately, until he was kneeling. The ground trembled beneath him, and then, in a voice that echoed across the valley, he spoke. Not broken, not uncertain, but clear, perfect. 6, his final words. Accounts differ slightly, but the most widely accepted version of his words is preserved in 3 separate journals, all written by different witnesses. I learned your words, so you would not fear me, but it is not my voice that frightens you. It is what you do not understand and will not try to. The soldiers hesitated. No one had expected this. No one had prepared for it. Irinder continued, his tone calm, almost sorrowful. I am the last of what once was. Not a threat, not a king, not a god. Just a memory, walking. A long silence followed. Then, as if speaking not to the soldiers, but to time itself, he said, and when I am gone, you will not remember me as I was, only as you needed me to be. 7, the aftermath. What happened next depends on which account you believe. Some say the soldiers, shaken by his words, hesitated too long, and in their fear struck first. Others claim Arinder did not resist as arrows and steel met him, choosing instead to remain still until the end. A few rare accounts suggest something stranger, that he simply vanished, leaving no body behind. But all versions agree on one thing. The valley never echoed the same way again. 8. The legacy. In the years that followed, the story of Arinder spread across regions, changing with each retelling. To some, he became a monster. To others, a guardian. To a few, a tragic figure, one who tried to bridge a gap that could not be crossed. Historians still argue over the truth, but among the scattered records, one quiet detail remains consistent. The giant had learned our language, not to conquer, not to deceive, but to be understood, and in the end it was enough.